Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Every now and then we get lucky enough to interview a true titan of health and wellness business. Today's guest is fitness industry legend Tony Horton. You probably remember Tony as the creator of the totally crazy P90X workout, which really was at the forefront of extreme fitness programming. How many of us have pulled our P90X DVDs out of storage in the last few months of home workouts? Well, he's also the author of top-selling books Bring It, Crush It, and his latest motivational book, The Big Picture, 11 Laws That Will Change Your Life. He's a world-class speaker and presenter and has appeared on countless television programs as a fitness and lifestyle expert to promote healthy living through exercise and proper nutrition. Tony believes that real and lasting change can happen when we commit to health as a lifestyle. Exercise, whole foods, and the right mindset is the formula that leads to a vibrant, productive, and full life for anyone who focuses on being the best they can be. He's a testament to this, as his energy throughout this interview is off the charts and totally infectious. There's almost nothing more inspiring than talking to a person who's cruised into their 60s with the level of health and vitality that Tony walks around with. It will make you want to take a good hard look at what you're doing to make sure you're still epic in your 60s. We'd love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. By the way, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of Health Coach Radio can always be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Our show is proudly brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute, now an accredited educational provider with the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches. This means that our graduates can become eligible to sit for the NBHWC credentialing exam to become a board-certified health and wellness coach. Stay tuned to the very end of the show where my co-host Laura will share the epic tale of what encouraged PHCI to take on the arduous journey of meeting the educational requirements for board certification. Long story short, we feel it's every coach's responsibility and the responsibility of health coach educators like us to shore coaching mastery so that our clients can truly transform and so our industry can be even more totally legitimized in the healthcare field. Check out primalhealthcoach.com/level2 to learn about our new advanced coaching course that will nudge you out of your comfort zone and launch you into coaching mastery. Laura will share a little more about what we teach and how at the end of today's episode. In the meantime, let's get on with the show and welcome absolute fitness industry legend, Tony Horton.
Tony Horton, thank you so much for joining us. What an honor to have you on Health Coach Radio. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you both, ladies. I'm looking forward to it.
Us too. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So our normal MO here, we like to have every guest give us their version of your backstory. So your sort of origin story about who Tony Horton is and how you got here.
All right. Well, I grew up on the East Coast. I was an Army brat. My father, we moved about 6 times before fifth grade, excuse me. So, I was all over the place. Some locales, we weren't even there an entire year, So that was a little difficult for me as a child, not really being settled into one place, not having the same group of friends, going to different schools, different teachers, different teaching methods. And I was a scrawny little kid. I had a speech impediment called cluttering. I later discovered, which made me a target, obviously. So, not athletic, speech impediment. I had ADD, probably ADHD, LMNOP, NYPD Blue. I had all the acronyms when I was a wee lad. So, I was frightened to death most of the time, probably well into my 40s. I don't know. I'm kidding. But yeah, it was really difficult for me. And we finally settled in this place called Trumbull, Connecticut. I was born in Rhode Island, and it was rough. But then I got through high school and I managed to go to deal with that. And I went off to URI, University of Rhode Island, and I kind of felt like I kind of reinvent myself. I had this really interesting conversation with my father's brother, my uncle. He said, "Hey, forget about what's happened to you all these years, and I know you've been struggling quite a bit. But you're going to this new place, nobody knows you. kind of lay low, spend more time listening. You know what I mean? Keep your trap shut for a little while. And that helped me a lot. You know what I mean? I didn't, you know, even in college, you know, I had a C- average. I wasn't doing very well. I never even graduated. I'm still 6 credits short. But I did take a weightlifting class. I remember the one thing that sort of really up to my GPA was the fact that I was just taking this class just to get biceps so I could attract girls. Apparently girls like personalities as well. I was unfamiliar with that, knowing that. So that developed later. But yeah, I mean, it did give me confidence. Obviously, you know, if you know anything about exercise and fitness, just the fact that you're moving and you're exercising and you're taking in this oxygen that you normally wouldn't if you're just sitting around, you know, and hanging out with your friends. That I just felt sharper and smarter, and my attention span improved, and all these things were happening, and I didn't really know why. I didn't know the science behind it, but it was happening. And that one semester, my GPA went up. Weird. I showed up to class more. Weird. I took more notes. You know what I mean? I slept better. There were some interesting things happening. But, you know, then I came out to California. I came out in 1980, so I've been out here for a long time. I came out here on a bet, really. A friend of mine said, hey, you want to come out for the summer, see what happens? And with no hesitation and $400 in my wallet, I did. You know, I ran out of money in Boulder, Colorado, and I was a street performer at that point. I would in the summers back in college, I was waiting tables, but I would spend a lot of money on things I didn't need, and so I'd have to go out in the street and do these mime routines. Yeah, I mean, I was very animated. A lot of it was X-rated stuff I probably can't even do anymore, technically. You know what I mean? But it was you know, it was provocative, and it was outrageous, and you know, and I would make $25, $30, and I could live on that for a little while. And so I had to do that in Boulder. And Boulder is one of these places where there's street performers everywhere. At least there was back then. I think it hasn't changed. And I made about $125, as I recall, which is, you know, holy crap, more than a fourth of what I had before I started. So that got me all the way to Orange County, and I slept on my buddy's sister's floor for the whole summer. And the only way I made money was, you know, painting houses and doing mime down at the Huntington Pier. And I was in California, man. It was 1980, and I was loving it, you know. And then when it was time to go back to finish those 6 credits, I told my parents I'm going to wait one more semester, and everybody on the East Coast is still waiting. So 40 years later, here I am. But you know, I was, like I said, I wasn't a fitness guy. But you know, the one thing about California then, and it hasn't changed much now, but the whole country is like this now. I mean, that's how the whole California kind of sets some trends, right? So there were gyms on every corner here, and it was really amazing, you know. And back on the East Coast, you saw them at the high school, at the college. There weren't gyms that you could join. There was no aerobics gyms or bodybuilding, and they were here. And this is cool, and this is new, and this is where the women were. So that's where I went. You know, I was looking for a partner, and you know what I mean. And I went to clubs too, you know what I mean. But it just seemed like a better way to meet real people who were sort of interested in their health and their wellness. And that's where I met people like Mark Sisson, and you know, back in the old days, guys like Andrew Lessman and many others that are done really well in this industry. And yeah, so I got, you know, I was into it. I was taking aerobics classes, and I was going to the track with Mark. You know, Mark was a track athlete, so you know, I was just sort of learning about what it took to get fit and to get strong. Now I was still drinking beer and smoking pot and doing lines, you know what I mean? I was still that idiot, you know what I mean, on some level, because I was a young kid in California and easily swayed to do things I shouldn't have been doing. And then eventually, you know, I got a real job. I mean, I was doing everything. I was a handyman, and I was a plumber, and I was a carpenter, and I was assistant manager at a men's retail store. I mean, I had every odd job, and going to the pier. You know, there were points in those early days where I was completely out of money. My parents weren't going to send me another dime. They said, get in your car and come home. And I refused to, you know. So I would put on the mime makeup, man, and I'd go into UCLA and I would do mime, or I'd go down to the Santa Monica Pier or wherever. And, you know, people are it's really hard when you're performing to feed yourself. It's a completely different energy, you know. Especially when people are screwing with you and taking your money out of your hat, and you know, and I would just try to make whatever I could. And on the corner there, I used to live on Pacific Avenue and Bay Street, and there was a liquor store on the corner, and they would sell Cheerios and yogurt, and I would live on that 3 meals. I mean, I would have just Cheerios and yogurt for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, you know, whatever. I was in my early 20s and I was having fun and I didn't care. And it didn't seem all that strange to me. And, you know, but I was still doing all those things and I was going to the gym. And then I eventually I got a real job, sort of, as a production assistant at 20th Century Fox. So here I am on this movie lot, and there's, you know, Sly Stallone and Dolly Parton and, you know, all these big movie stars. And there I was, you know, feeding cats and making coffee and delivering scripts and hiding the pot, you know, whatever the gig was, whatever I was supposed to be doing. And, you know, my boss at that time, a guy by the name of Harlan Goodman, who was in the music industry prior to trying to make movies. And Harlan noticed that I was getting fitter and fitter, you know, because I was pretty dedicated. I was, you know, I was going to Gold's Gym and World Gym. So Gold's Gym and World Gym, this is where Arnold and Lou Ferrigno and so a lot of the bodybuilders were working out. And then I would also go to, you know, other gyms that were kind of more about aerobics. You know, I was spending most of my money on that. But I was feeling better. I was looking different. And Harlan noticed and he said, man, what are you doing? And well, at that point I had an agent. I was trying to be an actor as well, you know. And I was, you know, getting the occasional gig, not very much. I had a Lowenbrau commercial that actually got me my first SAG card. Or was it a Beck's commercial? I did 2 beer commercials back to back, oddly enough. And so, you know, I did whatever my agent told me, you know, go to the gym. You look a little flabby and a little scrawny. And so, you know, it was really my agent that got me going to the gym. And it was purely for aesthetic reasons. It wasn't for anything up here that, you know, it wasn't about health and wellness. It was just about getting jacked, bro. You know what I mean? Get buff, get a 6-pack. You know, there's too many people who are still thinking that way. Mm-hmm. And so that my boss noticed, and I started training him in the morning before we both went to work. And, you know, I had that job for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And in that time, you know, he lost about 45 pounds, was looking really good. Everybody was noticing. And so he couldn't make a movie to save his life. He and Julia Phillips, who co-produced with her husband, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Taxi Driver, and The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. So these two hooked up, and they were on the lot, and I was working for them. And they tried and couldn't make a movie. And then eventually that little production company broke up. And at that point, when it finally broke up, I was training Harlan. I was training some secretaries on the lot, you know, another person that worked for that production company. And I had a couple. One was a doctor, one was a lawyer, and I would drive to their house and train them. And I thought, you know, maybe I can make this thing grow. And so Harlan went back to rock and roll, and Julia, I don't know what happened to Julia. But so all of a sudden I have a training business, and I'm still doing mime at the pier, and I'm still doing carpentry, and I'm still, you know, whatever. I got rent to pay. And then, you know, as the story goes, to make a long story good, Harlan Goodman was walking down the halls of East End Management on Sunset Boulevard. It's in the Valley now, but it was on Sunset. And Tom Petty was walking in the other direction. And Tom Petty's from Gainesville, Florida. He saw Harlan Goodman. He said, hey, Harlan, you look fantastic. I'm fat and I'm going on tour. And how do I look like you? No. That's my Tom Petty. Till I get my Bruce Springsteen, okay? Because none of them are good, all right? So Harlan said, call Tony Horton. You know, I write about this in my last book. You know, I wrote a book called The Big Picture. And kind of a funny moment. And so the phone rings. My roommate, Bob, the guy who said, hey, let's go to California, I don't know, umpteen years earlier. He says, hey, somebody's saying that Tom Petty's on the phone. I said, dude, hang up. Come on. So he hung up on Tom Petty. The phone rang again. Hey, it's Tom Petty. I think he hung up on me. So Bob looks at me and goes, dude, it sounds a lot like Tom Petty. So I said, hello. Hi, it's Tom Petty. I'm a friend of Harlan Goodman's, and I'm fat, and I got to go on tour, and can you come to my house? I live in Sherman Oaks. You know where Sherman Oaks is? I go, yeah, I know where Sherman Oaks is. So the next day I went to his house, and, you know, the gate opened up, the big long driveway with trees, and it was this spectacular pad, you know, all rock and roll, golden platinum records on the wall. Tom comes out, he's smoking a cigarette. Hey, I'm Petty. Yeah, hi, how are you? I'm going on tour in 4 months. What can we do? So, you know, I went in there, we did some body weight exercises, but I got him a heavy bag and got him the old Life Cycle. Remember the old Life Cycles, those gray monoliths that you lined up in every gym. And I got him a bench and some dumbbells and a couple of mats and, you know, whatever. And, I mean, those first couple of weeks were pretty scary. I thought for sure I was going to break the guy, you know. I mean, he didn't know what to do. He'd never lifted a weight in his life. He'd only held a cigarette and guitars, you know, for up to that point. And I thought I was going to kill him, honestly. You know what I mean? I put a couple of 10-pound weights in his hand on the bench press, and his arms went, bow. You're like, oh, shit, right, dang it. Now, Tom, you want to push straight up, you know? And on the left side, I put it on level 3, and he couldn't do it. And then I put it on 1, and he couldn't do it. So I just turned it off. And he was like, oh, that's better, you know? So I thought, oh, my God, I got 4 months. But in 4 months, he was benching 45s, 12 reps, kicking the crap out of that heavy bag on level 6 or 7 of that life cycle for 25 minutes. I mean, a massive transformation. And he went off on tour, and he was wearing like sleeveless leather vests without shirts on. You're like, everybody's like, what the hell? What is he, Bruce Springsteen now? And so, then the phone ran off the hook. The next call was Billy Idol. Right, mate, what in bloody hell did you do that friggin' time? He said they were F-bombs, but I won't do that here. Like, oh, great, can you come to my house, and then the boss called, and hey, I'm in California, this is my Bruce Springsteen,
Good.
And I had Sean Connery and Shirley MacLaine and Jason Sheff who was a bass player for Chicago, and Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics, and Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter, and and Stephen Stills. I couldn't do much for Stephen. He wasn't really into it, but I tried. But on my Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so here I was, this kid with a speech impediment, with 2 nickels rubbing together. And now I'm getting up and I'm training Billy Idol, Tom Petty, Annie Lennox, Stephen Stills, and Bruce Springsteen in that order, like Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, on top of, whoever else. I mean, I was getting up. My first client was a producer over at Fox, not anybody that I knew in the old days, but that was a 5 o'clock a.m. client. Mm-hmm. So, I would start her in the dark, and I would finish her in the dark, and then I would go train her sister, who was also in the movie industry. And then I would drive out to the valley. So I had an old red Mustang convertible, and I would drive that thing all over town. And I would wear out the transmission, wear out the brakes, and wear out the engine. You know what I mean? That thing was in the shop more than I drove it almost. And that's how it started. That's how my early days were. And I had a 2-bedroom apartment. That I lived in for 21 and a half years.
Wow.
21 and a half years in Santa Monica, with an awesome view of the convalescent home, which is where I thought I'd end up. Go down the stairs, across the alley, and into the convalescent home, get in a wheelchair, and look back at my old apartment and go, those were the days. You know what I mean? But fortunately for me, I was making a few bucks, and I was starting to pay off some bills and things like that. And I was, I'm a skier, so I was able to go on some ski trips. And I wasn't charging these folks in the early days more than $25 a pop. Like, I'm driving to Malibu to train.
These celebrities?
Yeah, this was the 80s, and I didn't know better. And then people said, hey, you're not charging enough. Mm-hmm. And so, 25 went to 50, 50 went to 75, 75 went to 125. You know what I mean? And then once the P90X stuff and all that started kicking in, it changed dramatically from there. But so, here I was an actor, and here I was a trainer, and these two things were separate. And then I got a phone call from the folks at Nordic Track. A friend of mine worked for that production company, and said, hey, will you come out to Minneapolis and shoot these things for us? So I did these instructional videos for them, and I did some commercials for them. And they liked me a lot because I could walk and chew gum, I actually looked the part. I knew a little bit about exercise science and kinesiology. I could hit my mark. I could read the teleprompter. They wanted to get trainers, but hi, my name is Bob, and this is the Nordic Track, right? And then they had actors who were just, actors, and I could do both, which is pretty cool. So, I was my reel, as we would call it. I was getting some stuff on my reel, and then I was training this guy, Ben Vandermont, who is the CEO of a company called Guffey Renker, and they were one of the biggest infomercial companies in the world. I mean, they were huge, and I met him through a friend, and started training him, and he said, hey, I want to bring this new kid in from Philly. His name is Carl Deichler, and he's got tons of ambition, and he's a madman like you, and you guys would hit it off, and he's going to work out with me once in a while, and I'm going to hire this guy. And so, Carl came, and we got along like gangbusters. And then, Carl was working for Guthrie doing whatever infomercials they wanted him to do, but he wanted to do fitness. He was a fitness guy. He was the 8-minute abs guy. He was the guy that created a commercial, 8-minute abs. You can't do abs in 8 minutes, whatever that what was that movie that was in.
I remember.
Yeah. So Carl said, hey, I want to do a little side project for you. Ben's going to let me use the production folks and the editors and some of the cameramen in the studio. And let's do this thing called great body guaranteed. And so I'm going to use you and my girlfriend's trainer, Debbie Sievers, and let's just shoot this thing. And he paid me $2,000, and I'm still pretty broke and broken down car and a view of that kind of lesson home. And he paid me $2,000. I was like, damn, that's all right. What the hell? I have to do some crunches and some push-ups. So sign me up. And I was a little stiff back in those days. Hi, everybody. Tony Horton here. And we're going to do some push-ups. They're going to be great. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like all the silliness and the humor and the improv crazy town that came later, right? And it did well. When it comes to infomercials, you can ask anybody. They're hard to do, because everybody's trying to get in that lineup, and you're spending all this money, and then you have to spend money on media. And then if you spend all that money on media and nobody picks up the phone, you can do that once or twice, maybe again for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're out of money. Yeah. And so we did this thing and it worked. And so we spent more money and more money. And so we were buying, these, what we call them wild spots, Poughkeepsie, New York, and Miami, and, San Diego and Kansas City. And we would spend $5,000. It would make 10. We'd spend 8. It would make 16. We'd spend, whatever. We'd spend 12. It would make 30. And it's like, holy smokes, this is a real little company. So he left Guthrie and he said, I'm going to do this thing for real. And then we did something called Power 90. And, it was 6 days a week and eating right. It was the real deal. Like, he said to me, well, what do you do with Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen? And can you put all that in front of a TV without all the equipment, without the heavy bag, without the life cycle, without all, all the extra weights? I said, yeah, I'll figure that out. And so, it was just another gig, and I was whatever, still even, doing mime gigs in Vegas, whatever I could do, right? I was just trying to make ends meet. And to make a really long story good, and then we'll get to the Q&A. Nobody bought it. Nobody bought it. Because I looked at the TV and went, damn. 6 days a week and eating vegetables. Where's that thing where I can just, do this?
Thigh Master.
By the way, I was in the original Thigh Master commercial too. Oh. Yeah, Google that one. It's like
okay.
I don't know what I'm doing this with. I don't know what I'm doing. And but what was weird is this is the advent of the internet. Now the internet was brand spanking new, and people were having cameras and getting in chat rooms. And so people who were doing it, the few that did buy it, started submitting their before and after photos to us voluntarily. We didn't ask for them. We had a test group, and we were using the test group as a means in which to show what would happen. But people probably looked at that with a lot of skepticism and said, oh, those are people in a test group. They're probably, eating nothing but celery and working out 16 hours a day. And, and the reality was that people were trying it. It really worked, and they were submitting these pictures. So we took out the test group footage, and we put in this real grainy, hideous kind of at-home bad lighting footage into the infomercial, and it went like this. Boom.
Wow.
So, at that point, I'm getting royalty checks. Early on, I get a royalty check for like $30 for a month. And then it was like the following month, $100. Like, oh, this is money for nothing. And then once we were using footage from real folks, and it went like that, I went like, oh, I can pay off that Visa bill. I can pay off that American Express bill. I can go buy that car now. I don't have to live in this apartment anymore. Oh, what is that? A 5-bedroom house? Take it. It was, nothing. And then bang. And then my life changed. Then my life changed. Then I'm walking the streets, whatever. I'm at the grocery store. Oh my God, you don't know what you did for me. I'm like, oh my God, who is this person? I hope I didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? And, it was just really, really crazy. And, I didn't have any furniture in that house, right? I was just freaking out every month trying to pay that mortgage. I lived in a 5-bedroom home, in Santa Monica with a great view of the Hollywood sign. It was pretty spectacular. But, it's expensive, and the car was expensive, and all that, it was expensive. And I was in my early 40s, and I was having, money for the first time in my early 40s. And I wasn't smart with it early on. I got smarter later because it's somebody, hello, Newman, you gotta stop being an idiot. You don't need $500 shirts. Okay. So then, then I started freaking out because, what goes up does come down. And then so Carl said, what do we do next? And I said, let's do something for people who are overweight, who are really struggling, that part of the community that's really, that's being neglected right now, right? And he goes, screw that. We're going to make Power 90 harder. Like, oh God, we could barely sell Power 90. So we made this thing called P90X, okay? Yeah. So Yeah, same thing. Nothing. People started submitting the before and after pictures, and now some video, and I could put furniture in my house, and I could start, getting 401ks and really, getting my retirement funds put together. And my life changed dramatically after that. I mean, it was, not everybody recognized me, but when your infomercial is on 24 hours a day, 5 or 6 channels at a time,
right,
for months and months and months and months. So we had the #1 show, the #1 media spend, and that went on and on and on and on. So, and only a couple of years earlier, I was broke, and so that's how it went. And and a lot of things have transpired since. I was with Beachbody for 20 years, and we made P90X2 and X3 and 22-minute hardcore and dozens and dozens. And the one-on-one series, there were 3 years of that, and of course there were all the supplements that came with that. And it was an amazing run, and I had a lot of other opportunities. I've been to over 60 military bases around the world. The DoD, the Department of Defense, and Armed Forces Entertainment called me and said, "Hey, we want to go to South Korea. We want to go to Japan. We want to go to Europe. We want you to go to almost every single base in this country." And so, that was an amazing thing. So my whole world opened up. My whole world changed dramatically. And during that time, I met my wife. I met Shauna, and I was still single for most of it. And she didn't even know who I was. She thought I was the shake weight guy or something. She had no idea. She was in the front door. It was a blind date, and her friend said, "He's the P90X guy." And she was like, "What is that? What does that mean?" So not impressed, right? And so we've been together for 10 years and married 5, and it's been an absolutely cartoon-like, amazing life, amazing life. And all the people that I met, all the friends. There are so many people who did my program who just, showed up at the beach when I was working out, just find me and stalk me. And half of them are my friends. The other half have restraining orders. No. Yeah. So, I know thousands of new people as a result of this thing. I have these challenge groups. I have these Paragon events at my home now, where I have people come in from around the world. We were supposed to have one last weekend, but obviously we had to cancel it. We might have to cancel the one in June.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, all the experiences and all the opportunities, now I've got my own supplement line called Power Life, which is, this company came to me. And my relationship with Beachbody is still really strong. I'm kind of an ambassador for them. We're not doing any new content. They're kind of starting to move in another direction. And I felt like, I needed my freedom. So, I did Next Level with Gaiam, TV Fit and Yoga, and Next Level's, out for people if they have a Roku or Amazon Prime or Spectrum or whatever it is. And so that was really cool because they gave me tons of freedom to make that the way I wanted to. Hopefully when this, coronavirus thing is, gone, we can get back to work. And then the supplements a lot of them sold out in 3 weeks. So we kind of didn't anticipate that. So, and now with the coronavirus, the factories are sort of on hold. But, these are good problems to have. And so right now, what I'm doing with myself is I'm doing 3 free workouts a week on Facebook Live. Last night I did a plyo workout for folks. I did a yoga on Saturday, and then I did a cardio one this week. And I shot my first of many workouts for the Gold's Gym community. There's 3.5 million Gold's Gym members around the world. And, they came to me and said, "Hey, will you do these for us?" So, I'm just trying to stay busy right now and do whatever I can. And that's why I'm talking to you guys because, it's just good to keep working. You know what I mean? Instead of staying at home and wigging out. That's most of the story anyway.
So I just want to ask you a question. First of all, I have so many notes, like I don't even know what direction to go. There's so many questions I have, but the first one that comes to mind for me is, let's say, imagine for a minute, this is 20 years ago. Would you ever in a million years imagine that you'd be here?
No.
Right?
No. My life has been a series of serendipitous mistakes. You know what I mean?
Right.
What is luck? Luck is opportunity meeting readiness. So there were a lot of times early on when I came out here, there was these 2 guys, they were young, ambitious dudes, and they wanted to do a audio program for people who would go into the gym, put in their Walkman, and listen to me talk them through a series of workouts. And I just screwed that up. I wouldn't show up. I was so nervous and so freaked out because remember, I had a speech impediment. right?
Yeah.
And I was basically over it by that point, but I had to read copy into the microphone to play so people would hear. And I would practice it and I would screw it up over and over and over again. And I was so embarrassed. So that opportunity didn't happen because I wasn't ready. But when I was doing all this acting work, I was going to improv class, I was going to scene study class, I was going to auditions and getting rejected over and over again. And I did stand up for 2 years. So, you know, and a friend of mine said, hey man, you're funny. Why don't you and I write some jokes and go do some open mics? And I just said, yes. Right. And was I funny most of the time? No. But, you know, when I finally got my act down and I, you know, smoke a little pot before I went on stage, you know, I didn't give a shit, right? So I just got up there and I went wild. I mean, I did this mime routine at the end that you couldn't do now, can't do. But I would play Nine Inch Nails and I would play Radiohead and I'd get up on stage and I'd go wild. And it worked. You know, I mean, I didn't make any money. I was just going to open mic nights and doing whatever. But when you're building confidence in that arena, right? And you're also working with celebrities and you go, oh, celebrities put their pants on just like everybody else. And so, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm going to hanging out with Bruce Springsteen. I'm going to Billy Idol's house, going to parties at Billy Idol's house. So my confidence went from 0 to 1,000. And so, you know, when that opportunity came along, I went, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. And then Carl said, the thing that the big variable for P90X, I'll be quick here, is he said, I want you to be the guy that you are when we work out together. And if I have to bring you down, I'll bring you down. But I want you to be a friggin' madman. Okay. And I went like, all right. You know, goes, here it comes. You know what I mean? And so I could just be free, right? I mean, I knew these routines inside and out. They gave me a whole year to develop P90X. Like, who are your experts? You know, how are you going to do Kempo? How are you going to do Pilates? You know, let's talk to your number one yogi guy. And let's create something that's different than everything else on the market. And somehow it still is. I mean, you know, I've got a challenge group on Facebook called P90X Never Dies. And I get 100 people a week that want to join that group from around the world. You know what I mean? And they're downloading all my stuff on Beachbody On Demand. And that's basically how I'm paying my bills right now. And I don't even work for that company anymore. So
has it gone up lately?
What's that?
Has it gone up more lately?
Oh my God. It's insane right now, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Beachbody had 475,000 downloads last week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm on, you know, so we're in this industry, right? So a lot of the people we follow and the groups that we're in are all fitness or health related. And there's a couple of fitness specific groups because I own a CrossFit affiliate, but fitness is really my thing, and especially for women. And there's a couple of groups. And now that nobody can go to the gym, they're all freaking out.
Of course.
You know, yeah. And you know, how do I do this at home?
3 days a week.
Yeah,
You know
so
what I mean?
Beachbody, P90X, all of those are fantastic. And I mean, what a phenomenal opportunity for people that are looking for an opportunity to start an online business. Like now is as good a time as any. But the reason I asked you that question earlier, and I'm so glad you said this out loud, that the serendipitous part, what all sounds like one big accident or a series of accidents, was opportunity meets readiness. If you weren't ready, if you hadn't been out taking steps and doing things to get you there, you wouldn't be here. And I know Erin has a story like that. I have a story like that. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that before or that before. And it's about just getting out there, because like you, there are so many people I think that can relate to your feelings of insecurity, whether it's yours as a speech impediment or here's the other thing, when it comes to just fitness in general and weight training. I know a lot of people that never identified as an athlete, that the minute they pick up a barbell or any kind of fitness equipment, suddenly that mindset changes. Yes.
Yeah. I was that way. You know, I mean, if it wasn't for that weightlifting class back at URI, who knows? You know what I mean? It was just really interesting to see that, oh, wow, if I just do what this guy tells me to do and I'm consistent with it, things will change. You know, anybody in this industry, if I was to give any kind of advice to your audience, you know, there's 2 things you need to do. Number 1, you have to build your knowledge and you have to build your persona. All right. Because there's a lot of really smart people with PhDs that are as dry as toast. And, you know, we know how Americans and people around this world respond to people. Why are certain television shows more popular than others? How come certain celebrities keep going? There's a certain formula that they follow, right? They're always reinventing the wheel, right? They're always staying up with trends. You know, if you're just a Pilates instructor and you don't have much of a personality, good luck. hello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got pretty decent at martial arts. I got pretty decent at yoga. I got pretty decent at resistance training. I got pretty decent at proprioceptive training. I got, you know, I mean, I do it because I have the attention span of a gnat on crack, right? I don't want to do the same routines over and over and over again. And I also, because here's 3 things that I learned that help build my entire platform. People stop exercising because of boredom, injuries, and plateauing over the course of time, or, you know, lack of results over the course of time. So if you're a bodybuilder, you know, then you're only going to get so much, right? So you're going to be pretty horrible at plyometrics. You know, if you love spinning, don't try to do a pull-up anytime soon. You know what I mean? So the idea here is to become, you know, really diversify your platform, right? So that people go, wow, he can help me with this, and he can help me with this. And he's also a great motivator, and he's got some great information. And his delivery system is unique. So my delivery system is very different than a lot of other people. There's a company called Tonal, and as soon as this whole thing clears up, I hope to start working for those folks. You know, they want me to Gaiam did that with me. Gaiam said, we want you to be the face. Like, we have 20 other trainers, but based on how you do what you do, we're going to take you from somebody who doesn't work for us as the face of Gaiam, which is pretty amazing because, you know, I mean, and right now, if you look at Gaiam's platform, and not to pat myself on the back while I tell you how awesome I am, but 80% of their downloads is next level. It's my routine, my stuff, right? They have 20 something trainers, but 80% is this thing, because I already have a built-in fan base. Tonal's going to be doing the same thing. They say, please come on our platform and have fun, right? Because we know that exercise kind of sucks, all right? There's a very minute percentage of people who love it. Do I love it? I don't love it. I did plyo last night in front of 1,000 people on Facebook. Did I want to do it before I started? No, not really. But, you know, I read John Rady's book, Spark. I understand the importance of exercise. It's the reason why as a 61-year-old, I don't know what that feels like compared to a 21-year-old, but it feels kind of better. Mm-hmm. But when I was 21, I was sleeping in and drinking too much and smoking pot and eating double cheese chimichangas. I'm not doing any of that anymore. I haven't had a drink in 30 years. You know what I mean? Taking an aspirin, I mean, my head's got to explode for me to take an aspirin. You know what I mean? So how can I do this as organically and as authentically and as cleanly and as healthy as I can? You know, I eat vegan meals. I eat paleo meals. I eat keto meals. I eat pescatarian meals. I eat Italian meals and French meals. I'm not any of those things. I just eat food that I know that is generally healthy, so that if my great-great-great-grandparents looked at it, they go, yeah, that's cool. Because it ain't Fritos in Red Bull. You know what I'm saying? So I stay away from the processed thing. I mean, because I like feeling good. I like having energy. I like climbing ropes. I like going around the pegboard like I'm on the friggin' moon. You know what I mean? I like being strong. I like kicking the ass of kids that are half my age. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I like funny. I like funny, and I like animated, and that, you know, I mean, I grew up watching comedians like George Carlin and Sam Kinison and a lot of people that, you know, Jim Carrey, you know, and Buster Keaton. I used to watch, you know, I like all week I've been watching Three Stooges. Three guys beating the crap out of each other. I mean, why is that funny to me? I mean, because I'm immature, I suppose. But you know what I mean? It's like, this is, and I think for people who are looking in and listening and want to get in this industry, don't try to do what you think other people want you to do, and don't do what you think is going to be popular. Do you. Yeah. Now, you might not know who you are yet, right, and that's going to take some time. Like, I didn't know who I was funny with my friends and silly with my friends and animated with my friends, but to do that on camera, you know what I mean? That's a whole different ballgame. You know, I mean, I've been in front of 26,000 people, just me on stage going out there and wow, right? And, you know, and I'm more comfortable there than I am probably in this conversation with the two of you. Right. I'm more comfortable in front of a camera lens because it doesn't talk back. It doesn't have any opinions. And I can tell it who's boss. I can tell it, you know, here we are. Let's do this thing. Let's have some fun. Let's get to work. Let's work out. Bada boom, you know? And so, you know, you have to be extraordinary. You have to have Richard Simmons, extraordinary.
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, a big animated individual, right? So, you know, and if that isn't in you, then you got to find something else that makes you unique and special and different than everybody else. Right. And that's how you get success in this industry.
Yeah.
Mark Sisson did it, right? Mark Sisson did it purely on tenacity and smarts, and you know what I mean. He's like a fish in water, man. I'm going around and I'm going to find the answer. You know, he's incredible at that.
I was thinking
tenacity. I mean, that's a part of it too.
I was thinking when you were telling your story that it reminds me a lot of Mark's story.
Mm-hmm.
Although to your credit, you're even a more nimble fish. Like some of the zigs and zags you took seemed to come out of nowhere. Like, oh, I'm just going to be a mime. Okay. Completely random.
But when you have a speech impediment and you want to perform, you know, it's got to be.
Yes. But I love that story because what I was taking from it when you were telling it was like, here's a young man who's trying to figure out what he's good at. And it turns out you're good at a lot of different things,
right.
A lot of different things, completely all over the map things that happen to come together in this perfect way to create P90X and all the things that have launched you into success and just this great life you're living. And so I think that your advice is really sound in the sense of like, don't try to be something that needs to, don't try to fill a hole in the marketplace. Just find out what you're good at, like go through an exploration and try stuff out, and you're going to figure out what you are good at, what you aren't good at, what comes naturally to you. And then it's also just easier to kind of go in that direction. If you're trying to become something to fill a need or fill a hole, that's a lot of work because you got to try to become that, and that might not come naturally to you.
Right.
But that was a really good pep talk. And this whole idea of pivoting and just like kind of changing directions on a dime, that's Mark's number one advice for business success is be nimble enough to pivot when the opportunity in front of you slams the door shut, you got to be able to pivot away from it, or an opportunity presents itself, you got to be able to pivot towards it. But if you got these lead shoes on, you can't pivot quickly, then you're stuck, right?
Right. Early on, and this even happened before I came to California, I had never experienced personal development. We used to call it self-help. We don't call it that anymore. We call it personal development.
We also don't call it aerobics anymore because I used to teach aerobics.
Oh yes. Yeah, we call it cardio.
Group fitness.
What do we call it?
Yeah.
Group fitness.
Group fitness. There you go. Yeah. Aerobics. Well, I mean, I come from the 80s. But, I've read, I don't know if you can see behind me there, most of those books, if they're not personal development books, they're sort of mountaineering books or adventure books or, finding the edge of the envelope kind of fiction and nonfiction. And so, I read Looking Out for Number One. I keep wanting to say it's Andrew Weil, but it wasn't Andrew Weil. And then the next book was Your Erroneous Zones, right? So I just picked these up at like a used bookstore when I was waiting tables in Newport Beach, Rhode Island, a bunch of years ago. And I was like flipping pages as fast as I could. You know what I mean? It just gave me so much confidence. That simple first book said, yeah, this person that you are that's not where you want to be and you're incredibly unhappy. How about you abandon some of the things that you're doing? And I would read things like, oh my God, I'm doing that. It's not working. Okay, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna start doing these things. And my brain never went, oh, that's gonna be strange or hard or weird. It's like, hell yeah, just whatever it takes, whatever phone calls I gotta make, whatever, there's no emails back then, but whatever conversations I have to have, whatever doors I have to knock on, I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? And maybe, things weren't improving right away, not by any means. But it was really fun to just start practicing, and being fearless maybe for the first time. And, I was the world's number one procrastinator. I would put everything off, but, you can only be so miserable for so long and so broke for so long and so single for so long before, something's going to kick you in the ass. And so I just kept reading and reading and reading. Keith Ellis's book, The Magic Lamp, it was a big game changer for me. It really helped me steer me in the right direction as to who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And he even said, write down all the stuff you ever want to be. Like, here's one list. It would be given to you, like airplane pilot, astronaut, president of the United States, Brad Pitt and Jim Carrey. And if they just said, here, Tony, you can be this thing. What would that list of 20 things be? The other list was, if you're willing to work your ass for it, what would it be? So these two lists were different, right? The richest man in the world, I don't have to do anything. Whatever. I'll open up my own gym or something. And so you would pit them against each other, right? You would go, okay, and then eventually you'd come down to one or two things. You'd have to narrow it down to one or two things. And then he would say, do it over and over again. Make two different lists. And the same crap came up over and over again. Like it was, movie star and gym owner was kind of the two that Yeah, so I don't want to deal with the bricks and mortars thing, but I'm not a movie star, and I'm not a gym owner, but I'm a popular fitness guy.
That's right.
And then so okay, I better go take acting classes, and I better go do improv, and I better learn a little bit more about what I need to be a better trainer so that my clients get the results they're looking for. There's a lot at stake early on, because when Tom Petty calls, his management company was on the phone with me every other day. What's going on? How's it going? How's Tom doing? He seems to be happy, whatever. So I had them in my ear, the whole time. But, Tom and I just got along. Bruce and I just got along. Billy and I just got along. Sean Connery and I just got along. Submarines don't react well to bullets. Okay.
I'm trying to think of what the what like an equivalent metaphor would be to Tom Petty phoning you. Like Tom Petty's not gonna. Well, he's not gonna call anybody. Okay, let's move on.
Well, the Japanese call that a satori, right? A sudden moment of enlightenment, or a tipping point. You know what I mean? Like Gladwell's tipping point. These things only occur as a result of the hard work that you've done before they occur. Like going to the gym and exercising, and then getting Harlan in shape, and then Harlan getting those kinds of results. So there you had proof positive that whatever he was doing was working. What's the source of that? Oh, Tony Horton. Then you go to, you know what I mean? It's like, for these tipping points to occur, there's got to be some groundwork before they occur, right? That takes weeks, months, years. You know what I mean? I got here in 80. That didn't happen until maybe 9 years later, 8, 9, 10 years later. I don't know, like what time, but
yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for just like putting that in like nice little bow, because people listening might say, I know we get into a little pessimistic mindsets a little bit. And I think that's what part of the journey of entrepreneurship or branching into a passion project or whatever it is. It's like, the imposter syndrome stuff, whatever it might be. Who am I? This isn't going to work for me. Oh, Tom Petty called you. Oh, great. That's not going to happen to me. But Tom Petty calling you didn't just happen out of the blue. Mm-hmm. Like, there were absolutely specific steps that led up to Tom Petty calling you.
There has to be a certain amount of tenacity with this thing.
Right.
Like I have, and I'm going to say their names. I have a friend, one of the most talented, handsome, funny guys I've ever met. I mean, I wanted to mentor him, and I tried to mentor him. Unfortunately, this coronavirus kind of slowed things down. But I could kind of feel that, he came from a small town in another state, and then he stayed here with my wife and I for several months. And he got a gig, but there were these other opportunities that kept coming his way, and I knew he was ready, but he would shut them down because he didn't want to piss off the people that he was working for. And I said, hey man, you got to make that work. Here's another guy that wants to, this one acting coach wanted to take him and said, dude, I can make you a star. Yeah, I don't have time for that right now. Or there was other little things. And, he just, as funny as he was, as handsome as he was, as fit as he was, as diversified in his fitness as he was, he just didn't want it as badly as I did. Another friend of mine who's a former Israeli Navy SEAL came here from Israel. A year and a half ago, he couldn't speak English. He's a stunt man. He's an actor. He's just, he would have been the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had to go back to Israel because of this whole thing, and hopefully he'll be back. But he saw no obstacles. There was no point at any time, regardless of whether he got, 10 no's in a row, he just kept going, right? And so that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe that's me to a certain degree. I still have a little bit of a procrastination factor. You know what I mean? Like, I like sleeping till 9, going to bed at 1. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, why not? I'll do that for a couple of days, and then I'll go back to work. So I'm a believer in yin and yang. The pendulum's got to swing in both directions. Work really hard, go like crazy, and then just, nah. You know what I mean? I don't know. Mark's not that way. Mark's like, over here all the time. I'm F it.
He has his moments, right, Aaron? Like, he just needs to kind of shut it down and step away sometimes too. But, there are so many things I hear in first of all, one of the things that I really took away too is that you have to be willing to say yes to a lot of different things, to try different things in order to be able to move forward. I hear that over and over again in your story. The other thing that I really took away that I think can be powerful for a lot of people is it really only takes one. It takes one great opportunity, one person, in this case, Harlan, right? Who changes the game for you. And then things tend to snowball and referrals. And here's the other thing. We talk about this a lot on Health Coach Radio and in our course. You've got to be good at what you do, because you've got to get results for people. Someone can refer you a client, but if you're not following through and getting results doesn't necessarily mean you have to know everything. It just means you got to be willing to work your ass off for that person and be there and give them a great experience. Right. So, I hear from folks all the time that are they're nervous. They're like, I don't know where my clients are going to come from. Who's going to pay me? How do I even build this? How do I keep a pipeline of clients? I'm like, you've got to start with one. You got to get out there, right? And start with one and get results for people and be willing to say yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting out, their head is already 2 years down the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's how I perceive it to be, and I don't know how the hell I'm going to get there. Don't worry about getting there.
Totally.
Exactly right. Just, become super knowledgeable, go hang out with other people, go to rock climbing gyms, go to spinning classes, go to various gyms, whatever it is. And then, go impress people with who you are and how you communicate and what you're doing. And then they go, wow, that's what I did. You know what I mean? I walked into the office and Harlan looked at me and was like, dang it, dude, you look different than you did 3 months ago. I'm finally noticing, you know what I mean? Like people got to, I see a lot of these trainers in that particular that are kind of out of shape, you know what I mean? That are still eating freaking donuts and soda pop and, they got tons of knowledge, but they look like shit. What is that? You know what I mean? When you're super vascular and really striated and really muscular and you can do really cool physical things, other people are going to notice that right away. I mean, this here, the gob and the bod is how you present yourself before you even open up your mouth. So that's number one, you know what I mean? And then you increase your knowledge and then you start offering free classes. Hey man, I'm doing this class. It's going to be really great. You guys are going to dig it. No charge, just come on down. And you do that a lot. You know what I mean? You got to throw right. You got to throw that thing in the water and then nothing, and throw it in the water and nothing, but you got to keep throwing it in. Right. And sometimes you're working for free. Like these Facebook Live things I'm doing right now, I got to put it together. I got to set up a time. I have to put out these announcements. But, I don't expect anything, but I'm just trying to keep people moving and grooving because I know where everybody's headspace is right now. People are freaking out. So, do it because it's the right thing to do. Do it because, karma is real. Right? Do it from the goodness of your heart. It's because when you're building your own business and you're working on personal development, guess what? Ultimately, it's not about you.
Right.
It's what you can do for other people. And if you're sincere and you're honest and you're authentic in that process, then of course you're going to be like a magnet, right? Maybe not right away, but that's it. It's all about your intentions, man. It's about your intentions and your authenticity. And if you can start there and that's your mindset when you begin, my old acting coach said, you need 2 gigs. 1 gig is not enough. So all you actors in here, all 35 of you that are in this class, the odds of any of you making it is 0. It's not 0.000. It's 0, okay? Because this industry is a monster. But I'm going to show you every tool I can give you to be the actor that you want to be. I don't know what your version of making it is, movie star, being in local theater, whatever it is. But this industry is a bear, right? So go find another gig that you love as much. All right. And for me, it was fitness, right? So here I was trying to be an actor. And then this fitness thing worked out for me. But before that, it was painting houses and being a hand, whatever else, just to feed myself. So, I tell a lot of people, what's your second career? All right. You got to split yourself in half here a little bit because you have responsibilities. Maybe you have a family and maybe, obviously everybody has bills to pay and a shelter and roof over their head. And so, for me, look what I ended up with. I ended up with a hybrid, right? I didn't end up with one or the other. I ended up with a hybrid because I was working on 2 things at once. And that's maybe a way to look at it.
I think, but people have different aptitudes for that as well. And I was thinking back to the story you were talking about your 2 friends, the handsome man and the Israeli Navy SEAL, and wondering if
both handsome, by the way, like ridiculous.
Both handsome, of course.
Like I stand next to him and I feel like an Ewok. I hate it.
But like the handsome devil has aptitudes. He just hadn't quite targeted them yet. He has some aptitudes. Like we all have aptitudes, and we all have, I guess we call them zones of genius in the personal development, AKA self-help world. And it might take a while to uncover what your zones of genius are, but I actually also think on the flip side of that is that we've always had them. We just suppress them. So like, I always think, like I say this to my clients too, that I work with, like, because clients really get down on themselves. People get down on themselves. Whoever you are, entrepreneurs, clients, whoever you are, we get down on ourselves. I'm not good enough. I don't have this talent. I don't have this skill. And it's like, what were you really good at when you were a kid? What were you super good at? Well, I used to have a really good imagination. Okay, let's go with that. Like, what did that look like for you when you were a kid? And why do you think you don't have that imagination now? And let's tap that, because that's a natural aptitude that you have. Like, I just think part of the human condition is, for a lot of us, not you, obviously, Tony, but for a lot of us, is to just kind of like, just sort of melt under the weight of responsibility and not living our dreams. But we all have these aptitudes that can be uncovered. That's my thoughts on this.
Well, you know, to tie into that, I read Steve Wolf's book, Romancing the Shadow, years and years ago. It's so funny. Quick story. So I used to live at 1438 15th Street in Santa Monica, right there between Santa Monica and Broadway, if you know anything about LA. And the food co-op, which was right around the corner from me, which organic foods and stuff. And I mean, it closed at 10 p.m. So I usually walk out my front door at 9:50. You know what I mean? Walk over there and get some stuff. And they'd always put flyers in the bags, right? And so, talk about serendipity, right? So I'm taking out the groceries and I see this flyer and I throw it in the trash. And then, I'm in a kind of a bad place. And I went, I don't know what tiny little voice said, reach your hand back in the trash and pull out the flyer. And so I pulled the flyer and it says, join Steve Wolf at his, free seminar for getting your shit together or whatever, personal development. And it happened to be at a little synagogue, 2 blocks away, like a week later. So, I show up over there and, and I walk into this room and there's like 20 people and there's one seat left in a circle and he's in the circle. And I sit down and there's a stunning girl next to me. We ended up dating for 6 months. And, and when I read that book, Romancing the Shadow, it was just one more tool to show me, am I being my authentic self? Am I really, because there's the person you put out into the world, right? Hey, Tony Horton here, everything's great, making lots of money, really fit, happy. And then this person, when you close the door, I'm so nervous, you know what I mean? And so, it was just one more amazing tool because I just said yes. You were talking about that before. I just, who knows why I reached back into that bag and pulled that out. And there was this very, very powerful step that changed my life as a result of doing that, so.
Absolutely. And there are things I think that people are good at that they don't really realize are a talent and that they can leverage to really grow and be authentic and turn it into something amazing, So Erin, you're absolutely right. And thanks for bringing that up, because there are lots of things because kids, for the most part, every single one of my kids, all 4 of them, when they knew exactly what they were good at and wanted to show the world what they were good at. And it wasn't until they got a little bit older and had to learn humility for some reason that they kind of hide that light, and I see it again. I have kind of 2 sets of kids, my older kids, and then I've got 5-year-old twins, and I'm seeing it again with them. And boy, do I want to cultivate that, I want to,
like the difference between like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Versus what do you like to do and what are you really good at? And like, maybe that's the question we should be asking even our grown-ass adult selves, because we see people who come to school with our school to be a health coach. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, you're going to get a health coaching certificate, but like, what do you want to, like, who do you want to be and who do you want to help and how, and we just kind of get bogged down in this sort of like who I want to be when I grow up and what, like these labels, kind of silos, and we're not thinking kind of those little tendrils that made us who we are, the foundational kind of root system of us. It kind of, I don't know, it goes away after a while. So we try to teach.
I think it's hard for people to think outside of the box sometimes, because when you look at the world that we're in right now, I mean, I can look around the room and I can, there are things that didn't exist 10 years ago and 5 15 and 20 years ago. And the same thing with what we're doing, or how we're trying to help people. I mean, look at the Stretch Lab. You guys are familiar with Stretch Lab. A friend of mine, this kid Tim, that was in one of my original test groups. He's like, well, why don't we open up a place where you don't have to stretch? We'll stretch you out. You know what I mean? It's like, it's different than a massage. You'll give you a little bit of massage as well. But there are people that like, boom. And I don't know how many he had in the end when he finally sold it. But there has to be a certain amount of that. Like, if you have to look at society and say, what, like I created these things called power stands. I have a patent and trademark for power stands, because whenever I went to the store, I would see these push-up stands that were horrible. Like the handles were horrible, and they were rickety, and they hurt my hand. Like, who would what? How about a wider handle? How about tip forward to protect my wrist? How about a round base, because they're not going to go anywhere? To me, it just made sense. You know what I mean? And Aaron, the point that I wanted to make was, when I was doing that shadow group. So we would go to these shadow groups. There was this course that you would take, and I did it for a long time. And we'd have these resolution exercises where one person would have an issue or a problem they're dealing with. And this took us, it was like an 8 or 12 week course. And so I think in the end, after that group of 20, we became a group of 8, and we would go to Dr. Wolf's office, and we would sit and we would, kind of collaborate and talk about what was going on and where we were struggling. And this resolution thing was so basic and so simple. I wish I had it in front of me, but I think I can remember it. You'd have one person, and you had 1 minute to describe what the issue was, like what you were struggling with. And there was another person who you were facing, and we had a candle in between us. It was this kind of this really kind of a nice moment. Everybody else sat in a circle. And so let's say I was the person who was trying to figure it out, whatever it was. Yeah, hey, I know I only have a minute, so I'm just going to tell you this one. But you look right in the eyes. You couldn't look away. You had to keep your eyeballs on somebody. At least you had that sort of intention, right? And I would say, I'm trying to start this business, and I don't really know what to do, and I feel like I'm all over the place, and I feel like I'm wasting my time. And my boss at the restaurant is up my butt for, cutting out hours because I'm trying to start this business. And I'm just, you know what I mean? I don't. Should I stop? Because I need this other job. Because I need to pay my bills, but this is my passion over here. I don't know what to do. All right. And then the other person's job was to say to you, I hear what you're saying. Let me ask you a series of questions. How does that make you feel? All right. And it makes me feel confused and awful and terrible and whatever. And then they would say, okay, can you go deeper? Does that feeling that you have, that feeling of frustration and anger, does it trace back to something that you dealt with early on in your life with your parents or your school or whatever? Can you take it back? Like other examples of when this sort of, when you were at an impasse and you couldn't find a solution for it. And then you go deeper. What kind of emotions come up there? And then, you were asking people to go in deeper and deeper. It's like ineptitude or great sadness or it brings up depression because there's a pattern here in my life. You know what I mean? And then they would say, okay, is there anything that you think as of right now that you can do about it? Like, what can you do between today and when we meet 7 days from now? What are the tasks? What are the action steps? I know I sound like Tony Robbins. All right. What kind of paradigm shift? I'll go all the way. What do you need to freaking do? Who do you need to call? Who do you need to write? What kind of conversations do you need to have, right? Do you need to go to a bank to get a loan to start this? What are the things? And then, maybe you come up with something there or not. But the following week, there was that group waiting for your list. And like, what did you do, right? And that was the whole point, because some people just sort of, like you said before, Aaron, they're just like the weight of it. Like they'll just sit in the muck and the mire of it, as opposed to taking whatever steps. And it doesn't mean those steps that you take in the course of those 7 days are going to change anything, but at least to get the ball rolling. At least you're doing something, right? At least you're getting some answers.
Yeah, you're standing at the bottom of the staircase looking at the top stair thinking that's an impossibility, and all you have to do is drill down to the little micro stairs. And I always love this analogy, or this story, I guess, that Seth Godin uses, the story of the 1/4-inch drill bit. I don't know if that's familiar to either of you guys, but like people don't go to the store to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. They go to the store because they need to make a 1/4-inch hole, but they don't actually need a 1/4-inch hole. They need to be able to install the shelf bracket into their wall, but they don't actually need a shelf bracket. They need a shelf, and they don't really need a shelf. They need the books up off the floor, and they don't really need the books up off the floor. They just need their house to be tidier. Like the 1/4 inch drill bit's the thing you think you need, but really what you need is this. And so what happened in that session was like you got really expertly coached down to the granular next step you needed to take, and then you could take that little piece home and say, okay, I just got to build an action plan around this. That's all I have to do right now. That's coaching.
I write that about in my book, The Big Picture. It's about reverse engineering. It's that simple. Like, you're basically trying to predict the future by looking at all the steps prior to the, that final moment. I want to be on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. Picture yourself on the top of Kilimanjaro. You got a flag with your friends. You're taking pictures. Yippee-yi-yay. Great. What did it look like that morning? Like, what were you doing that morning before you're going to go to well, we're packing up our tent, right? We've set up a time. We had our communication before, right? Putting our stuff in our backpack. We know we got another 6-hour hike to get to the top. And so that's what so what did the day before look like? Well, the day before we were like, maybe 2,000 feet short from the summit. All right. We're in a different kind of climate. We were wearing different kind of clothes because we weren't that, we were having, but what did that look like? What did breakfast look like? Right. What did it, like, all the way down to, you know what? I think I want to climb Kilimanjaro. All the way down that way, right? All right. So what was your next step? I pick up the phone. Who do I want to go with? I email, hey, Billy, Sally, Tom, and Ann, I want to go to Kilimanjaro. Do you want to go? None of you want to go. Well, then you can go F off. I'm going to find other friends. You know what I mean? And so you have to actually see it. Now, will it happen exactly that way? My friend Scott did that. He went to Kilimanjaro. On the 4th day, a 100-pound rock was dislodged, rolled down the hill, and landed and smashed and broke his big toe. Everybody said, dude, you got to go down. We got a Sherpa. We'll take you down. He goes, no, we're going to cut open my shoe. I got a knife. I'm going to cut open my shoe. We're going to wrap it up with whatever to keep it warm. And he stumbled his way to the top, right? So, his reverse engineered version didn't happen exactly the way it did, but there he was, a couple of days from the top, and he did it. And so that's everything. I mean, I don't know, man. And that's how I still live my life. You know what I mean? For example, this whole supplement line, this Power Life supplement line that I have right now, there was tons of that. Like, okay, what's the bottle look like? What are the colors? What's the font? Am I in the cover or not? You know what I mean? Are we going to have HMBs and vitamin D and BCAAs and like, maybe the BCAAs are, maybe the HMBs too expensive. No, maybe we can make it a smaller pack, right? And a lot of that, no man is an island, no woman's an island. A lot of times people who are trying to start these businesses, they're the only employee. Mm-hmm. Right? Just because you're the only employee doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to 50 people. Get their experience. Read a couple autobiographies. Holy smokes! I mean, it's really about reaching out to other people. There's certain aspects of my life that I don't deal with anymore. That's why I have an assistant, right? That's why I have social media people. I don't do the social media thing. I'm in that place now where I can have other people do the stuff that I used to have to do myself. And at this stage of your career, if you're starting out, even though you're the only person who's trying to create this business to help other people, you have got to ask questions. Like Ben Vandermont, the guy that introduced me to Carl, I still talk to him all the time. I still communicate, even though I don't work for Beachbody, I still communicate with their lead attorney and Carl. And I have a manager now, and I'm always going to Peter and asking him those questions. My wife is a tremendous resource. I'll come up with some convoluted, goofy idea, and she'll say, "Do you really want to waste your time with that?" And I'll go, yeah, God, I just saved like 5 days. And what that means is find your tribe, because your tribe will help guide you to the right place, so you're not meandering off in all these kind of weird places that are, not really where you want to go. And you have to trust your tribe, right? A lot of people have people around them and they ask questions and then they ignore their good advice. Sometimes that's not good. And so a lot of time, and you have to kind of clear out the people who you no longer don't bring any value. Yes, but it's my brother, and we were in business. Okay, well, your life sucks. You're still a bit depressed. You're all out of money. You know what I mean? And it's your brother that's the problem. So you need to have a conversation with him, and you got to know exactly what you got to say before you have that conversation. And you got to do it with love, and you got to do it with authenticity. And you can't bark and scream and yell at the guy. You know what I mean? It's got to come from a really honest, beautiful place, because your life is tick, 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 death. You know what I mean? Birth, school, work, death. That's it. That's the whole friggin' journey.
Nice.
So you better make it work, especially if you're in your 30s or your 40s, right? So Anyway,
Took a
So
dark-
is your book out now? Your
Yep,
book?
it's been out for quite a while. It's called The Big Picture. You can go on Amazon and get it there. They have sell it in paperback. I think it's $9 right now.
Awesome.
Big Picture, yeah.
Can't wait to get
Oh my
it.
gosh. This was amazing. This was just like pep talk from start to finish. Got a little weird at the end there with the whole birth, work, death thing, but
That's those are lyrics from an 80s alternative song. I think the Godfathers, they had like 2 or 3 hits.
No.
And that's a lyric from their song. So I'm just a version of many stolen things. I am literally 3% Billy Idol and 5% Tom Petty. I'm 1% Bruce Springsteen. You know what I mean? I'm just a combination of all the people I've ever met.
well, you
I love
did,
it.
but sort of by way of wrapping up, like you mentioned that that knowledge, like build knowledge. So build knowledge is one of your sort of, you repeated it a few times on this interview, like build knowledge. And that doesn't necessarily mean going back to school and getting more degrees or more certificates. It just means getting out into the world and just like uncovering, learn things, like lift up rocks and look underneath them, whatever. And so I think that, your combination of many stolen things is just, that's knowledge, right? All the knowledge you've accrued from this like kind of wild ride of your life. And we all have the opportunity to do that.
Having experiences, physically taking yourself and going someplace else. I've been heli skiing. I was scared to death of it for years, but I went and did that. And the people that I met and the experiences that I had build that knowledge, deciding to get up on stage and doing stand-up comedy, right? These are experiences that I kept immersing myself into that helped me learn things. It helped me, it also exposed me to people that altered my life forever. Right. So it really is, it's a combination of the people that your tribe, and the experiences that you have with them. And you got to keep doing that. Like, once you have a little bit of success, like when the window for Beachbody closed, you don't think I didn't scramble like hell? I mean, I have a supplement company. I have a fitness project with Gaiam. I've got another one in the works with Tonal. I'm doing another fitness program, which is kind of top secret, but I can't talk about that yet. So it's still in the work. I'm writing my next book. I can't tell you the working title because it's so good, someone's going to steal it. But it's really about diet, nutrition, my experience with food growing up, and my experience with food now, and how we eat and everything else, supplementation. And then, a lot of just public speaking gigs. There's a lot of those that I still do. I do often. The military stuff, I hope to get back to that again as well. So, if you're super myopic about one thing, my career took off because I was doing the fitness thing and the acting thing. But, you have to have your hands in a lot of stuff. But if you have your hands in too much stuff, then certain things don't get done. So, it's a juggling act, and you just have to figure out, some people have a greater bandwidth than others. I finally kind of found mine. These projects I can kind of do, and I can manage the supplements, different workout programs, and the book, and all these things. I can manage that. At one point, when P90X was at its peak, I was saying yes to everything and nothing got done. Yeah. So you got to avoid that too.
Can I give you a backhanded compliment for a moment?
All right.
I get so excited when I speak to people who are in their 60s, and you are technically in your 60s, in the early stages of your 60s, but like you, Mark, hanging around people just the vibrancy that comes through and the energy that comes through, it fills me with so much optimism. Like I'm in this game for longevity. That's my whole like raison d'etre. And so I have no line of sight as to what I'm going to be like when I'm 60 or beyond. So I love being in the energy of people like yourself, because it's like, yeah, that's how I'm going to be. I'm going to be just like Tony when I grow up.
That is an awesome point. And here's the thing that I want to add to that. I know we're past the hour, but whatever. Your health and wellness is everything. That's the foundation of who I am. All right. There's 2 things I can control: what I do physically and what I put in my mouth. The weather and the coronavirus and people's moods and traffic and all. I can't control those things. But the 2 things that I can control change everything. It changes my perspective on how to deal with the things I can't control. And it also prolongs your ability to be successful long term. Right. So, a lot of people who are 61 are done. You know what I mean? They don't look like me. They don't act like me. They can't do what I can do. And so, any hope that they're going to have a second career is toast, because they've abused themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for decades. right? Like I did that for the first 20, 30 years, right? For the last 30 years, not a drop of alcohol, you know what I mean? No drugs at all. You know, a lot of the insanity that I was doing earlier, I stopped it. Like I don't even go in the sun. It's a giant death ball in the sky. That thing, I hate that thing up there. I mean, but I was in a tanning booth at the Sports Connection 4 times a week. I was the brownest man you ever met. But, you know, now I'm still paying the price, you know, with all kinds of different skin things and Obagi this and whatever, you know what I mean? I've got a basal cell right here in my cheek that I'm working with right now. And, you know, like bad behavior in your youth comes out later on in life, and, you know, you can get it back. You got to go to yoga. You got to have your mindfulness practice. You should be meditating by now. You should be, you know, doing tons of cardiovascular exercise, because that replenishes the heart, the lungs, the legs, your organs. You know what I mean? This is important as well, especially now with the coronavirus. The virus lives in your lower lungs. Most people only use the top half. When you have a part of your lung removed, they take out the bottom because most people don't use it anyway. But during cardiovascular exercise, and I learned this from Mark Sisson, that's where you're doing. That was too much. That's planting occurs, right? So, you know what I mean? There's basic rules to the road. And if you know what they are and you follow them, then you can start this career in your 30s, in your 40s, 50s, and your 60s, because your 70s and 80s and 90s don't look like everybody else's. You know what I mean? Why shouldn't you be a beacon of hope based on your behavior that is the antithesis of everybody else in your age group? I mean, come on now.
Yeah. Well, and I had that thought because, like, right now I work with women in their 40s, right? Because that's who I am. And then it's like, well, what happens when I'm 50? Oh, I'll work with women in their 50s. And then it was like, someday I'm going to be a health coach working with women in their 80s. And like, it's wild to imagine that, you know, 40 years from now, when I'm in my 80s, that's going to be a viable, that potentially will be a viable community. Like 80-year-old women in 40 years aren't going to all be walking with canes. Like we're all going to be still lifting in the gym, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Not if they're working with you, girlfriend, right? You're going to have your tribe. Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us this hour. Thank you.
Laura, Aaron.
Every second.
Well, you're very, very welcome. My pleasure. I'm glad to be here. Yeah. And, you know, and it's good that you're doing this. You know, it's good that you guys are still working in the midst of all this insanity. And I'm glad to do it. You know what I mean? I try to stay as busy as I possibly can right now. You know what I mean? Our house has never been cleaner. I will tell you that. The garage is next. It's just so funny how, you know, because you can only watch the news for so many minutes and go, okay, all right.
I know.
You know what I mean?
They say the same thing over and over.
Yeah, to clean up house. I mean, cleaning house is everything. You know what I mean? Organization gives you the freedom to live the life that you want. And when things are where they're supposed to be and you can access them and you don't have to spend 25 minutes finding your phone, you know, then that's just one more step in the quiver of important things that one needs to do to become successful, I think. So,
I love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tony.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Aaron and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. We are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach Certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/Level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.